From the ABC 27 Storm Track Center, it's time to go beyond the forecast.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Forecast. We've got the whole gang here this evening. I'm meteorologist Eric Finkenbinder.
Welcome to fall, everybody. I'm meteorologist Brett Thackeray.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Coyle.
And good evening, I'm meteorologist Dan Tomaso.
Well, it's not too often we get the whole crew together. We should have some sort of celebration, I suppose.
Well, maybe we should celebrate the fact it was such a nice and comfortable summer weather-wise.
Yeah, when you look back at the summer months, we actually only experienced 11 days of 90-degree heat, which is just about half of what we would typically expect in an average summer.
And just 2 tornado warnings for the season, neither producing a confirmed tornado on the ground.
And we did have several thunderstorm days, many of them producing localized flash flooding, but it was great to get so many rainfall and flooding reports from our viewers.
Yeah, it was. We had an overwhelming amount of cloud photos sent to us during the summer, and that's what we want to discuss on this episode of Beyond the Forecast. We saw spectacular skies of storm structures and cloud formations that are quite common throughout the summer. And we want to explain how these clouds form. I'll look into the clouds of a thunderstorm.
That's right, and I'm actually going to show you some other unique photos and explain the phenomenon in which they occur. And if you're wondering if our cool summer has any effect on our upcoming winter, meteorologist Dan Tomaso will talk to our state climatologist to see if there's any correlation to these seasons.
That's right. But first, Ryan did some number crunching. Here's a look back at the summer of 2014.
Yeah, it's all about the numbers in the meteorology department, and we want to thank the National Weather Service for providing those numbers as we look back here at summer 2014. So far, 11 days at or above 90 degrees. Now, that is not the only measure of how warm the summer was, but it's the one that is most common for people to understand. 2010, we had 34 days at or above 90 degrees. And if we could carry this list down, 2009, we only had 7 days. That was the last time we were actually this far below average. More on 2009 coming up in a second, but I want to show you the temperature swings month by month. Of course, all this data is recorded at Harrisburg International Airport. About a degree over in May, a degree over in June, near normal in July. What I'm getting at here is the months haven't been all that off. August was officially about 1.4 degrees below average. Of course, this is taking into account the high and the low, averaging all those numbers together. And September did start off rather warm, but now we're starting to level that number off, and it probably will be dropping here by the time we get to the end of the month. Zoom in a little close here. Notice on the side of the screen, the scale. Darker reds representative of way above normal temperatures in the months of June, July, and August. That is what we define summer as. We don't go by astronomical summer, which goes, of course, by the moon. We go month by month, and this is the average temperature here over the course of the entire summer. Greens. We're not talking about anything way above average. We're not talking about anything way below average. In fact, at the airport, we were dead on. We hit the average to the 10th of a degree, 73.8 degrees. So everybody's saying, well, it's been cool. It's been a cold winter or summer. It hasn't necessarily been a cool summer. It's just the first time we've had one at or below average since 2009. The past few years have been well above average as far as our temperatures are concerned. When it comes to precipitation, we can look at the same scale. You see the purples there on the top of the page? That is representative of way over precipitation versus way under precipitation for those 3 months. We zoom in a little closer, and again, we're not talking about anything too far off. Now, it has been a rather wet 2014, but most of that rain did occur earlier in the year before we got around to the summer months. Summer 2014, 12 inches of rain. Average is a little bit less than that, so we are a little bit over, but compared to last summer, we're right on where we should be. Take a look at the whole year. Since January 1st, we've had about 34 inches of rain. It's average about 29 inches of rain. So we are over for the year, but again, the summer has been almost average to the 100th of an inch of rain. Last year, we were around 24 inches. Of course, this is all recorded since January 1st. So here we are about 9.5 months through, and we are above in the rainfall department, but specifically speaking about the summer of 2014, we've had average temperatures and we've had near average rainfall. So despite the fact that it seems cool, it has been an average 2014 summer. Well, coming up next on Beyond the Forecast, Sky Spectacular. Eric and Brett show you some of summer's best sky shots and explain how they occurred. Stay with us.
Good to have you back with us. This summer didn't produce much severe weather for the mid-state, but we did have several thunderstorm days that provided flash flooding, some wind damage, and lots of great cloud formations.
And many of you took pictures of these cloud formations and sent them to us, asking us what they are and how they form. So let's talk about some of these pictures that were sent to us throughout the summer.
Summertime storms. It's what many weather enthusiasts live for during the hot and hazy days of the year. We don't need to travel or buy tickets to Mother Nature's show, and oftentimes the best views are right in our backyard. That's where we find many of these great storm photos from the summer. Some before, some during, and some after the storm. All of these clouds are uniquely created by the evolution of thunderstorms. So let's begin on a warm and humid afternoon as storms are initiated. This is when our first hints of storm growth can be seen by rapidly rising clouds emerging higher into the atmosphere. These clouds present an apparent texture as they pull humid air higher into the atmosphere. What started out as a cumulus cloud quickly evolves into a cumulonimbus cloud, shown here. This is a view of the storm from Perry County, but the storm is deep into Lebanon County. Many of us can view these large towering clouds from a distance. Here is another example of a fully developed thunderstorm that developed in Lancaster County on Labor Day at the beginning of the month. And this picture was taken about 30 miles away in uptown Harrisburg by photojournalist Justin Robb. When the storm reaches its maximum growth, the rising air reaches the equilibrium level, the level where the rising air equals the same temperature of the atmosphere. This causes the clouds to expand outward, resembling an anvil, which is the reason why meteorologists refer to it as an anvil cloud. If you're in line with one of these approaching storms, you may catch an incredible view of the shelf cloud. These clouds form ahead of the thunderstorm and are associated with the gust front, which is formed by rain-cooled air descending from the storm and rising air ahead of the storm. Some of the most eye-catching photos of the summer are shelf clouds, like this one, moving over New Oxford earlier this month. And here's a less defined shelf cloud moving over Duncannon, taken by Daniel Reese. And this is a textbook example of a well-defined shelf cloud over Hershey, captured by Michael Scott Brulot. Another related cloud type that we received many times during thunderstorm events are mammatus clouds. These clouds normally occur during the storm or shortly after it passes. These form when sinking air from the storm still contains moisture as it sinks lower into the atmosphere. So while many clouds form from rising air, these pocket-like clouds form from descending air from a thunderstorm. Many of our mammatus cloud photos were taken near sunset, like this one from Dan Bob Jr. from Carroll Township, York County. This photo from Todd Zimmerman was captured while he was on vacation in the Black Hills of South Dakota. We received some other great photos throughout the summer that were not cloud photos from thunderstorms. And we also asked if you have any photos you would like to share with us so we could explain how these spectacular looking sky creations form. So let's go back into the studio with Brett Thakra to explain a few of these photos.
We asked many of you to submit your local photos of sky phenomena, and you came through with flying colors. And so we start with this picture from Deb in Dillsburg and sun halos. Now, a halo is a white or faintly colored ring that sometimes can appear around the sun. In order to form, halos require the presence of ice crystals, usually found within cirrus clouds, like you see right here, also from Deb. These bright rings around the sun have often been associated with approaching rain because cirrus clouds often signal an incoming frontal system. And although there is some grain of truth to that, not all frontal systems, of course, contain rain, so this really is not a great forecasting technique. When sunlight hits the ice crystals in the atmosphere, most of the light is simply reflected, and that leads to a completely white halo. If the incoming light strikes the falling ice crystals, though, in a certain manner, well, then the light is refracted, leading to a multicolored rainbow effect like you see here. This from Bailey in Loganville took this while vacationing in Mexico. So this is the same process that makes a pen look like it is bent when it's in a glass of water, as you see right here. Sundogs are known as mock suns and appear as two distinct bright spots on either side of the sun. This creates the illusion that there's actually three suns to observers on the ground. This picture taken from Carolyn and Lewisberry. Now, a thin layer of ice crystals must be present in order for sundogs to form, either in those cirrus clouds or simply free-falling in the atmosphere. So it takes a rather large number of these ice crystals for sundogs to form, and hence they are a pretty rare sight in the atmosphere. Thanks again to Carolyn for that photo. Now, rainbows, on the other hand, well, they're fairly common. This picture sent to us here from Jill in Dalmatia. A nice shot there of a rainbow, and it was actually Isaac Newton that showed in a classic experiment that as a beam of light passes through a prism, it gets refracted, and it's actually broken down into a spectrum of colors. So Newton inferred that white light was just a combination of every other color in the spectrum. And from this early prism experiment, the explanation for rainbows like this one became clear. Raindrops are simply tiny prisms that break up sunlight into its base colors. Double rainbows, like this one from Becky in Thomasville, they occur when sunlight is reflected twice off the back of the same raindrops. And so it's a simple process that can actually yield beautiful results. All right, moving on now, Carolyn sent us this photo, again from Lewisberry. This particular optical effect is called a sun pillar, and these are created by the reflection of ice crystals that occur either in cirrus clouds or in ice fog near the Earth's surface. And these crystals reflect the sunlight into vertical pillars like this one that often occur above the rising or the setting sun. Well, thanks to everybody who sent us local photos for this segment. You help us tell the weather story here in Central PA. So I thank you for that, and I hope you learned at least a little bit of science tonight. For now, I'm meteorologist Brett Thakura for Beyond the Forecast.
And it's always a great show when we can work Sir Isaac Newton into Beyond the Forecast.
Nice and science the way I like it.
Yeah, still to come on Beyond the Forecast. Sky Spectacular. We look farther into the future and dig into seasonal forecasts.
Well, it has been a cooler than normal year. Will it continue? That answer is coming up next.
Welcome back to Beyond the Forecast. Fall is a season of ups and downs, both with temperature and with precipitation. And it certainly seems that September is already following suit with warm weather to start. Now we've got to transition to cooler weather.
Well, what else is in store for fall? Will it be cooler than normal? I went looking for answers and talked to my good friend Paul Knight at Penn State.
Since late winter, the Mid-State has had its fair share of cooler air spells. In addition, periodic rains have kept our weather active and wetter than normal. Pennsylvania State climatologist Paul Knight explains it's all due to a persistent weather pattern.
And the predominant pattern has been a dip in the jet stream from the northern plains into the northeastern part of the U.S. And we've been on the east side of the dip, so to speak, or what we like to affectionately call the business side of the trough. So that's why there's been a fair bit of regular rains.
With our weather mainly arriving from the northwest, the air was traveling over the colder than normal Great Lakes. Lake Superior even had a chunk of ice last until the second week of June. Quite the natural refrigerator or freezer, leading to colder weather here.
And the fact that it had record low temperatures this winter and into the spring, it definitely favored keeping this dip in the jet stream nearby. And that, I think it was a direct feedback. It's unusual that it would have that much influence, but it was an unusually cool winter, too.
You may be asking, hasn't this weather pattern happened before? It certainly has, and it wasn't long ago.
Actually, we only have to go back to 2009 to find a summer that was similarly cool. However, if we're looking for precipitation, we have to go back to 2003, and there we would see a summer that was wetter than this one.
With all of this in mind, what can we expect for this fall?
The warm pool over the western Atlantic will back in for a while into the early autumn. Now, there's some indications that it'll be in for the second half of September, and then some forecasts indicate that it'll get swept out and we'll get a cold period for part of October, and then it comes back, roaring back in November. So if you want to tease out that much detail, warm second half of September, cool for a time in October. In fact, it could be very cool, and then quite warm as we end up autumn.
Along with fall weather comes beautiful colors across the Commonwealth. There does appear to be some connection between leaf color and long-term weather patterns.
The ideal leaf colors are related to a cool and a dry part of autumn. And right now, if it were right, it does look like October could turn cool, which would be favorable. However, will it be dry? I don't know. So far, Pennsylvania has been very difficult to stay dry for very long.
Sure. Well, a lot of details there, but the take-home message is that September and November will feature mild, if not warmer than average weather. But then as we look for a cool air comeback, that happens in October. So a little bit of a split decision. With winter not far away, we will be keeping close watch, of course, on our fall temperature trends.
Yeah. Tonight says mild weather from November may extend into the beginning of winter. Stay tuned, of course, for that forecast in November. Coming up after the break, we have some memorable photos of the summer that deserve some honorable mentions.
And whether you're an experienced photographer or just a fan of fall, we'll show you if weather conditions favor a vibrant array of fall foliage this season. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Earlier I showed you many of the cloud photos that you sent to us from the summer. So next time you see similar cloud photos or clouds in the sky, hopefully you can identify them and understand how they formed. But we also received some other great photos from the summer that at least deserve an honorable mention. Like this one here sent to us from Barbara. This is some flash flooding that we had at Hershey Park. If you recall, during the summertime, this was July 10th, and we had flash flooding providing really several inches of rainfall very quickly. And you can see there from Hershey Park getting a lot of flooding in that region.
A little lazy river there, right, where they least expect it. Here's a double rainbow and some lightning thrown in for good measure, sent on June 3rd, 2014 from Jill out in Dalmatia. And you can even see a horse there in the foreground as well. A beautiful shot there.
And if you remember back to July 4th, gentlemen, that it was probably one of the nicest Independence Days we've had here in Central PA in quite some time, and it looks like Josh captured some fireworks right over the state capitol complex.
Nice and cool watching the fireworks that night. I remember this is supermoon. I believe we actually had 3 of these over the summer. This one was captured here by Michael again over Harrisburg, and what a shot. Not only an orangish glow there, but it shows you how big that moon appeared in the sky. And of course this was a little bit of fun at the fair. We like to get to as many fairs and festivals as we can, and I believe I see Eric Finkenbinder there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Still a big kid.
Big boy
dapper
there in the background. So that was a great shot. And of course, we want to remind you that we want the pictures to keep coming, especially of the fall foliage. And so perhaps some of your hometown harvests as well. You can send them to weather@abc27.com. Of course, Facebook. You can go on our ABC27 weather page and Twitter as well. Keep those photos coming. We appreciate it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and here we are in late September. I mean, it is basically time for fall foliage. I know up into parts of Vermont, they've already been kicking it off.
Sure.
So the question now becomes, well, when do we see it here in our region? And there's some factors that obviously are involved as well.
That's right. And so far, it looks like everything's going well for us. We do have what appears to be adequate soil moisture. We've got the cool days that are happening, a lot of sunshine, but we can also have some factors that may limit, and that is droughts or a stretch of cloudy, damp weather, perhaps an early frost, and you get those strong fronts that can rip off a lot of those leaves very quickly. But right now, things are on track for very bright colors.
And here's a look at your timing for peak dates here. From northern Pennsylvania to southern Pennsylvania, it might as well be a whole different ball game. I mean, you're talking about basically now through early October if you're heading up into the northern tier. Closer to home here, we're looking more into mid to late October, and there are some fluctuations here to these numbers. Don't take them to the bank, but it's definitely something you're going to want to pay attention. If you have any open weekends, head out and enjoy the fall color here at Commonwealth.
That's right. Yeah, about a month to go before that peak. So certainly stay tuned for that. We're looking forward to it. And coming up, we're actually going to give a forecast here. We're going to wrap up the show with an early fall forecast. That and a little bit more. Stay with us.
Remember, if you missed any part of tonight's show, re-air all week long on the Storm Track Center 24/7 channel. Tune in at 8 o'clock each night to catch an encore presentation of Beyond the Forecast Sky Spectacular. Check your local cable subscriber here for your channel listing, and if you don't get cable, you can always watch our Storm Track Center 24/7 channel live over the internet. Just click on Live Weather on our homepage.
All right, now, before we end the show, we should at least provide, well, some sort of forecast for early fall, especially since our entire weather team is here. Let's check it out. Now, we may have started off September a little warm, but
That's right.
it seems like we're going to get near average, right?
That's right. Let's show you the end of September where we don't really have anything dramatic. It looks like temperature-wise, we are going to be near average, and precipitation, nothing really to talk about. So perhaps an interesting start to September, but wrapping up this month, things are looking pretty quiet. And hopefully we can enjoy fall, but before we can get to Ryan's favorite season, of course, winter.
Oh, only 3 months to go, baby. 3 months.
Get out of here.
No, we got to enjoy fall. And hey, that's it for our Beyond the Forecast. For Eric, Brett, Dan, myself, thank you for joining us. us and enjoy the seasons.